I still think Supers and Titans should require more than one character to fly them. It would be cool. Although the point is that like, how do you make that interesting for both people? That's the real question. Otherwise, I'm just sitting in your Titan and watching you do it, right? Worked in Allegiance, don't see it working in Eve. Which part? The operating and tie-dye part? Again, I don't... It was a very crude suggestion of a kind of skill-based thing that could be added into it. Oh, multi-characters in a ship. I see. Yeah. I don't think that that's what Eve is for. I do like the idea of like being able to dock in a ship with your ship, like a mothership. But as a capsuleer, it doesn't really make sense for us to be both operating the same ship. It's just not the right game for that. I have never actually played Artemis, but I have seen it, and I would love to play it. Artemis, for those who don't know, is a game in which you play as the bridge of a starship. So each person gets a role, and you get a very specific UI based on your role. And so everybody has their information, and so you have to communicate with each other. The captain gives commands. Everybody does their part like a ship bridge, and they deal with as you fly around and deal with things. Yes. Not multi-boxable would be great, especially if... So, like, the goal here, the whole point about multi-boxable... First of all, you're not going to make it 100% multi-boxable. You just want to make it so that it's not so redundant that it's almost like normal people choose to multi-box just for their own... Like, to be more engaged, right? Like, if multi-boxing in a lot of games are supposed to be about, like, actually doing 2 times the job. You know, you're performing both roles, and I think that that's the important thing. If you're multi-boxing, if everybody's doing the same thing, then they all have to follow each other. You as a pilot only have to make one decision and then implement it for each of your characters. So I strongly believe, you know, like Invasions or other games like other places like that have shown us very clearly that the best way to open up away from multi-boxing is to create several distinct roles that require different focuses and different priorities at the same time, right? Like a Logi and a combat pilot or an E-War pilot, right? Like what if you had to identify and jam the correct things while shooting at other things? You know, what if there was a mini game? I don't know, whatever. What if there was a mini game to jamming to make it so that that was like a thing that actually demanded your attention? The point is that if different things demand your attention in different ways, then that will resist being multi-boxed. Oh, so force people to have others to play with who gets to pay for the really expensive ship that another moron... What the heck? No, nah. Well, the thing is that, like, Titans used to be collective assets anyways, for the most part. I don't actually dig the whole multi-piloting thing. But at the same time, I'll be honest with you, Midnight Space Monkey, that argument doesn't really move me either. Simply because it's like, well, yeah, there's hard things to deal with all over the place, right? Eve is about difficult situations that are like, well, why do I even have to deal with this shit? Well, guess what? You do. So, you know, as you gain in complexity, you have to deal with more complex problems. And at a certain point in complexity, that actually does require you to start needing more than just you. Now you have to figure out how to do trust. The entire game is about trust, the application of trust, the value of trust, how trust can be used against you or in the power if it is maintained. So, you know, the idea that eventually would scale up and add in the requirement of trust as a mechanic isn't unreasonable. That being said, I just don't think that the gameplay of having multiple people piloting the same ship is good. I think I mean, here's the thing, Midnight Space Monkey. If you can't trust people with your expensive ship, then you would never fly in a fleet with Logi. You are putting your expensive ship's life in the line of your Logi. Hell, you're trusting the Alliance to not just kick you out and give you your SRP. Like, you're already having to trust people. The fact that somebody else is having to be in your ship is just, like, maybe a more obvious form of it. But the idea that you don't have to trust other people in order to implement these things, unless it's very narrow experiences, I just don't agree. I think that trust becomes a very important part in the game pretty quickly. I would just be... It would have to be a totally different gameplay, wouldn't it? It would have to be that, like, gunjacks are able to fly in your ship. So there can be, you know, just like Dust 514, there can be somebody playing gunjack and they're being your gunner. Because I just, like... There's one person that's doing basic... These ships are too basic for even one player to pilot. Splitting that responsibility between two players, I just feel like it's going in the wrong direction. You know? So I don't think it's a trust issue. I think it's a gameplay issue. I just don't think it's good gameplay. I think it would be better for multiple ships that work together. I think it would be better for multiple ships, or like different kinds of ship synergy. Right? Like different ships can bring different pieces to the table. And they all work off of each other. Things like command ships, but, you know, more specifically. Ash advocates for bots confirmed there's no pilots in these basic ships. What? What? I don't believe I advocated for that. I could be confused. I do not believe I advocated